right, good evening. I've got, we're a little after 7, so we're going to go ahead and get started in the interest of everyone's time. I want to start out, first of all, by thanking each and every single one of you that are here. It is so important, and the business before us, this community and this board, is incredibly important when we talk about finding the next leader for our school district. So I am so glad you're here. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the process. I'm going to introduce our consultants who are helping us in this process now. First is Mr. Tony Resendez. Tony is an attorney at JCA Law. RCA just rolls right out. I know, at JCA Law. Lots of experience in school law, so he's there to guide us along those principles. And then Dr. Saul Hinojosa has served as a superintendent for over 15 years here in the state of Texas, is just extremely knowledgeable about what it takes to do this job. So we're very fortunate to have both of them. They're going to, in a few minutes, sit down and tell you a little bit about the process, a little bit about our timeline. There are obviously some legal things that the board can and can't do throughout the process, and they'll expound on that a little bit as well. But we appreciate you being here. The one thing I am going to ask, as you leave here tonight, number one, make sure you do the survey. Please fill out the survey and share that survey with everyone, especially those who can't make it to these meetings. And number two, take what you learned tonight and share it with someone. You are the most powerful source of information in the community. We know the newspaper's not. We know the TV station's not. We know the internet's not. We know social media's not. You, speaking to people around you, make a bigger impact than anything else they hear. Good, bad, indifferent, please share with those around you. I shared it with them at the earlier meetings, a little bit like that old, for those of you that are old enough and remember the Vidal Sassoon commercial, they'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends, and before you know it, we've got an entire screen of hundreds and hundreds of people that are a little bit more informed than they were before. But again, thank you so much for being here. Tonight, if you have a question, I am going to ask that you go ahead and step up to the microphone. Since we do have a quorum of board members here, I'm going to call us to order in just a few minutes. But this meeting is being recorded and will be available on our website for all of those in the community who weren't able to make it. That being said, this is the public meeting concerning the superintendent search, and now we are called to order. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With that being said, does anybody have any questions of me before I pass the microphone off? Going once, going twice, going three. Oh, excellent. I'm out of here. Tony, it's all yours.
Thank you, Michael. As you mentioned, we're here. We're the search consultants. Saul and I have a lot of experience helping school districts find superintendents. We also have a lot of experience just in school law in general. So we've worked with a lot of boards, worked with a lot of administrators, worked with communities on resolving issues and working partnerships and doing things that benefit the school districts. So here today, we're going to go through a little PowerPoint of our timeline and the profile that the board's talked about. But the most important thing for tonight is we want to hear from you all as citizens, community members, in terms of some of the things you're thinking about, whether it's just a particular leadership style that you think the next superintendent needs to have, or it's an issue that you want the board to be aware of as we go through this process. The board, it was very important to the board to do this. Saul and I were talking, a lot of districts don't do this. A lot of districts, the board will just say, no, the community voted for us, and we'll figure it all out, and we'll hire the superintendent. But your board is like, no, we want to hear. We want to hear from the community. We want to hear from the organizations, the business organizations. We want to hear from staff. We want to hear from students. So this is important. And the information that we get, the ideas that you share, the surveys, there's going to be a QR code, fill it out, all that information. We're going to help the board determine certain themes that come out in terms of what the community believes are the most important things that we need to look at when we're looking at those individuals to decide who's going to be the next superintendent. We're really confident. Victoria has a strong history of being a good community, a good school district. So the superintendent world knows. We're getting a lot of interest. We're getting a lot of folks that are interested in the position. We've had several, probably over 20 individuals already ask for an application. So it's an exciting time. You know, and I know there's a lot of challenges, but it's a good time to bring the community together and find the right leader. So we're going to get started. So on July 22nd, 2024, we met with the board, talked about this particular timeline, talked about the process. There are some legal things that the board has to take into consideration, but this is kind of the timeline that we're on right now. The vacancy, the profile and the vacancy were determined, and it's been open. It'll close on September 5th. That's when we get all the applications by that deadline. Then we're going to have a meeting. It's not on there, but we are going to have a meeting with the board to figure out who of those applicants, who does the board believe rises to the top based on their perspective, based on the community's input, based on staff input. Who do they want to interview? And that first round of interviews will take place on October 2nd and 3rd. We'll interview 6 to 8. Generally speaking, could be more, could be less. Depends on the pool of applicants, and it depends on specifically what the board believes is the most important thing. So we'll do that, and then from that 6 or 8, they'll narrow it down to 2 or 3. They'll bring them back for second round interviews on October 14th and 15th, and we'll hopefully, usually 1 or 2 will rise to the top, and it'll be a tough decision for the board. And usually that's what happens. There's a 2 or 3 that it's tough because they're really good candidates, and I strongly believe that's going to happen here. We'll have some really good candidates, and then ultimately, though, they'll pick a finalist, and they are looking at naming a finalist on October 17th, 2024. So from that date, by law, you can't hire a superintendent until after you name them, which is a vote where I move to name the superintendent finalists as so-and-so. And then 21 days later, the law requires that you wait 21 days, and then you could actually offer them a contract and hire them. That doesn't mean they're going to start in 21 days, because the board's talked about, well, we'd like them to maybe start January 1, to start the new year. Because most of these folks that apply have current jobs, and they're going to want a smooth transition from where they're coming from. So we're going to work on that. They could start earlier, they could start later, but that's kind of the target. Saul, why don't you add any other, because this is important.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a little bit about the process so everybody knows. Of course, my job is to recruit. Obviously, there's people who are already applying, and I'm doing outreach as well to as many individuals that I know are quality candidates that are going to be a good fit for Victoria ISD. Again, we're getting a bunch of interest, and we're getting people with experience, all shapes and sizes. And what I mean by that is that you're talking about people who have proven track records. You're talking about some individuals maybe that are change agents, maybe some that are really good at interfacing with the community. Right? There's all different types, but as we well know, as I mentioned to the other group earlier, there's only one person who's walked on water, right? We want to get as close to that as possible so that when we choose that person, all right, that person is going to be able to take Victoria ISD to the next level. The other part that is important for a search firm is that we vet the candidate. We're going to make sure that we find out every little thing about those individuals who are applying. Again, I've done several searches, and what I find is that sometimes it's the same individual applying over and over again for these different positions. And there's individuals out there, and there's usually a reason, right? But again, we're going to find out about these individuals. How have they done academically at their previous districts? How have they done financially in their district? How did they interface? How did they get involved in the community, all right? Do they have a vested interest? Is it somebody who's going to be here Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, right? Going to shop here, go to church here, right? Really get involved and immerse themselves in the community. So those are the types of things that I'm going to be looking at. Where you come in, where your voice is really critical, and you're going to get an opportunity in a few minutes to voice your concern, but we want the board to know how you feel so that when they ask questions of these candidates, okay, they're going to have a theme of what you as a community are looking for. I'm just going to kind of summarize. We just had a meeting at Shields, and one of the things that or themes that rose to the top is, again, somebody who lives here is vested, and somebody who's really going to invest themselves in our students, right? And I say our because I feel like I'm part of it, right? I'm involved in the search. But again, we want to make sure that they're individuals like that. So we're going to ask them those tough questions, okay? Are you going to bring your kids here, right? Are you going to bring your wife here, right? Are you going to buy a house here, right? What are you going to commit to this district? Now, some people, as you all know, they'll tell you what you want to hear, right? But we are going to ask those tough questions, right? And what those questions are going to be, again, is a lot of it is pertinent on your comments today. Now, the board has come up with a profile. And again, it's very generic because we want to be sure that we cast a wide net. We don't want to exclude individuals, okay? And Tony's going to talk a little bit about what those characteristics are.
So these are the things that the board talked about in terms of, because we wanted to go ahead and open up the vacancy. So we wanted individuals who are interested to see some minimum required and preferred qualifications. And you'll see, obviously, in Texas, to be a superintendent, you have to have superintendent certification. That's important. It's required. Doctor preferred. Some districts, they believe it's important for their superintendent to have a doctorate degree, but not all districts. There's several superintendents that are very successful that aren't doctorates, but they're strong educators. Superintendent experience, somebody who's already been a superintendent, talked about that for minimum 3 years, preferred. This one was required, administrator. The board felt strongly that they had administrator experience. The board felt strongly about teaching experience because it's important to, be in front of the classroom to relate. And Saul may talk about that a little bit more. He's an example of that. He was a teacher, a principal, and a superintendent. Superintendent of the year, so he's been very, very good at what he does. Planning, construction, we know that you have issues, or not. Every school district has issues, some more than others in terms of those areas. School finance, budget are very important. Just dealing with the money that you have and budgeting appropriately. And then experience with bond elections. If y'all might have to go out for a bond election one day, and then obviously they want you to live in the district. To be a part of it. That's important. Saul mentioned, are they going to bring their family, their wife, their husband? I know that's important to some community members as well. So that's something that the board felt strongly about. But these are the basic things. Saul, do you have anything else you want to touch about that?
Yeah, again, on the admin experience, again, it's important that they've at least been a principal, because how can you be a superintendent if you haven't even led a campus, right? If you haven't had that experience, right? So that was one of the things that says, that's why it says required, okay? Again, have a superintendent certification, okay? It's a national search, right? It's put on a web where anybody in the United States can apply, but they have to have that superintendent certificate. So if somebody lives in, for example, in Florida, right, and maybe they earned their superintendent certification years back, they took off to Florida, but they want to get back, all right, that would not exclude that person, right? But if they don't have their Texas superintendent certificate right now, then they wouldn't be considered or meet the qualifications that the board has, okay? So again, those are the three required. Now again, or required attributes. We are going to be involved, us as a search firm are going to be involved in the committee. There's 5 presentations that we're doing. And then we're also going to Rotary Club and to some other local civic organizations where we're going to be presenting. I think I'm going to be here like 8 to 10 times, or have 8 to 10 events. So we want community, or the board wants community involvement. They want to hear from you. Again, business leaders, maybe even church leaders, community leaders, political leaders, getting as many people as possible, because again, it's community as a whole that makes a school district successful. Okay, the school district can't do it on its own. Okay, it takes a village, right? And again, as 15 years in the helm, right, of a high-performing district, it took everybody working together to that common goal, which is student achievement. Right.
So you'll see the QR code there on the right. That if y'all haven't noticed it on the school district website or the school district social media links, they're making sure that QR code that gets you access to the survey. So we're going to have it on every page of the slide, and at the end we'll have it so you could participate. But so in terms of these qualifications, now's the time we would like to hear from you guys. We spoke a few minutes ago at another school, and they had some good points that, X, Y, or Z. We don't see that on there. We think it's important, and we'd love for you to have one of these mics because we are recording. And if we don't have volunteers soon, he was a teacher. He's going to start calling on you and make sure you did your homework. But please, we want some input, and we have, as you know, you have board members here, and they want to hear firsthand from you as well in terms of what your thoughts are.
Now,
go ahead, Saul.
The court is only so long. I know it might be a little uncomfortable, but we'd really love to hear from you guys. So if you don't mind,
Just
giving us your opinion.
Yeah, in terms of, I don't know, do y'all have any thoughts on, do you want your superintendent to have a doctorate degree or not? Is that really important to y'all? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Or, again, what does proven track record mean to you?
Because that's been one of the things that have come up in some of the surveys, a proven track record in some of the organizations.
What I'd like to see is somebody come in here that has had the same experience that we need. We happen to be in the bottom 14th percentile of the state. Have somebody that's done that job, taken them from 14th to 25th. Love to see that they have a proven record, that they can bring our standards up so that our people here in Victoria County can be more marketable in their job skills.
So 14th on academics? Or?
I believe in the star rating. Correct me if I'm wrong, board members. I don't know. Okay.
So tell me a little bit about, just so I understand, 14. You're talking about student achievement, right? Let's just say maybe below state average. You like to see that school district exceed state average.
Right.
That's somebody who has that track record. Right?
Who's done it before.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
Just somebody who could move the needle, who could move it in a positive way. Okay. Academically. Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
I have three.
Sure, please.
Would you mind coming up here? Just.
If you can hand it to me. I don't know how far it's
being recorded.
being recorded. Yeah.
So we do need to. One thing I will tell you, we know y'all aren't shy because the survey has been a popular thing, and folks are not shy to they share their opinion. We know Victoria likes to share their opinion, so go for it.
And I'm sure you've heard it before. I'm pretty involved in both of our high schools, get to be around a lot of athletes. I really would like to see somebody that's going to put the students' learning first. Whatever we can do in the district to move the needle, somebody that's going to listen to our teachers and work for our teachers, somebody that's going to support them, somebody's going to support our principals, and somebody's going to support the families. I think all three of those areas are a challenge. The only time I saw our last superintendent is if he had a big check in front of him or he had a big crowd. I want somebody that's going to be on a first name basis with every single principal, is going to know teachers, is going to have conversation with teachers, is going to work that experience that they have. If they've had a minimum of 3 years, maybe they need to have a minimum of 5 or 6 years in the classroom. That's important to me. So.
And those are good points because, we've been doing this. I've been doing this over 25, 27 years now, a long time representing a lot of school districts. I've seen a lot of good superintendents. And there are superintendents that are real visionary and that are hands-off, and then they're able to energize a group. And then there are leaders that are really hands-on, superintendents that need to be hands-on at times, that need to be at the campuses. So you guys telling us what your thoughts are like, that's good feedback. That's good to know, because there's some superintendents, they won't go to the campus because they want their principals to handle it. But then there are others that they're on the campus a lot, and there's pros and cons to that. But that is kind of a leadership style, and that's also a kind of information that we're looking for. So, I mean, you might have some feedback on that too.
Absolutely, the personal touch, right? Again, I know I went to many funerals, right? Quinceañeras, right? And things like that. So somebody who has a vested interest in their staff and their community and first name basis, I agree.
Being able to connect with their folks, yeah, because there are some soups that are really good, but they don't connect, and it's just different leadership styles. But that's great. So anybody else, any other ideas or feedback on what you'd like to see?
Hi. I would like to see. My blood sugar's low. I'm sorry. I would like to see somebody personable, like the gentleman said before us. Also, somebody who really enjoys young people. Thanks. I've got some sugar right there.
Can you tell me a little bit, just expand on that? Enjoys young people, just kind of get some context to that.
Okay. Somebody who doesn't mainly enjoy being in their office.
Okay. Visible.
Visible
Yeah.
out in the community. That would be great. Also, somebody with common sense, who's not, I guess, seeking, power and control, but who's going to be a team player and really work with the board. Someone who respects parental rights, I think, is very, very important. This is kind of a crazy day and age, and I really think that parents know their kids best. I would like somebody who believes in tradition, who believes in our Constitution, who's inspiring. I think everybody's said the other things I wanted to say. Thank you.
So it sounds like you want somebody who's going to put others first, right?
Yes.
Right. In other words, hey, put others out there in the forefront. It's not about them, right? It's about the community, the teachers, the parents, and the staff. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, who's a really good listener and who draws out what other people have to say, what other people are thinking.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet.
Great.
So I want to talk again.
Okay.
Please forgive me.
No, this is an opportunity.
forgive me.
This is why we're here.
How many teachers do we have in here? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I truly believe that if the parents have an interest in their children, they do well in school. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. And if we could have somehow, and I'm not saying people in Victoria don't have an interest in their children, but maybe they don't have a scholastic interest in their children. Something that I present to my kids every year at the first day of school, a chart from the Bureau of Statistics in Washington, D.C., and it shows the different echelons of wage you're expected to make after you've been out of school for so long. High school dropout, I believe, is like $24,000, going up to a PhD that works in his field at $97,000. 2 years ago, that was true, right? And I truly believe in education. So if we had somebody that could really involve the parents and have the parents see the beauty of education and the ability to make more money and have more accomplishments, I think that would be fantastic. So it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. But great comments. I mean, and we have to believe that. That's one of the great things about our country, right? Education is a conduit, to move the needle. When we're talking about social status and things like that, that's how we, it's about getting educated, right? The more people we have educated, the better off we're going to be as a community, as a state, and as a country. So again, great points. Yes, sir.
They know me, I can't be quiet. So for me, operations are a big thing. I feel like if we have a superintendent that's had a lot of experience in operations prior, that's important. That's one. Number two, somebody that's got experience outside of the state of Texas, because we all know that we have property taxes. One way of lowering or keeping property taxes at bay is to have more of a base, tax base. And if you look at some of the districts around this state, the better school districts have good companies that have come in. Mm-hmm. So the district should have an interest for the superintendent to want to have that kind of input and to be attractive to businesses, not only United States, but businesses that in the United States that may do foreign. We have a couple of foreign companies that are here, and I'm not just talking about, from Mexico or Canada. I'm talking from around the world. So somebody would have that kind of experience, at least a global perspective, because we're trying to develop students that have a global perspective, especially in this day and age. And then lastly, I guess for me, it's really important that the superintendent understands what it takes to really do research from best practices, other districts that have been successful, learn from those districts, as well as be able to share the successes that we've had here. So to me, those are the three things that are really important.
Great comments, great feedback. And I like that. We have to be vulnerable sometimes, right? Hey, we never stop learning, right? The only way we can improve, we learn from others, right? So again, it's, if you're not successful at one thing, hey, it doesn't hurt to go talk to somebody out. Maybe a neighboring district that's doing really well in an area, or they have some expertise. So yeah, I like that, because again, we can't stop learning, right? Once we stop learning, we reached our peak, right? And collaboration is key, and we have so much knowledge in this community. Again, if we use it to our ability and we put it together, we can accomplish some great things. And again, and Tony can tell you, the district I came from, Somerset ISD, right? 90% economically disadvantaged, right? But we did have Toyota in a community, right? The people came together, right? And they knew education was important, and we achieved some great things. Just about every campus was an A, except for 2. They were high Bs. So it can be done, but again, it takes everybody working together for a common cause. When we don't, and we work, in an opposite direction, we're pulling apart, then it's very hard for the school district to be successful. So again, kudos. Again, the board, right, for reaching out and wanting your comments. And as of just today, we've had over 400 people submit comments for this survey, which is one of the highest that I've seen in all the searches that I work with. So there is a vested interest here, and people care about our schools, and they care about this next election. And that's the toughest and most important job that a school board member has, and that's selecting a leader. It doesn't happen very often, and hopefully once we do this, it won't happen for some time. Right? That's the goal.
If anybody else, I know there's some teachers here. Maybe some teachers might give some perspective on.
We have some teachers? Where are the teachers at?
No, they won't raise their hands.
But even if you're not a teacher.
Did you have a comment? I see you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, my name is Martha McCarthy, and I have volunteered with the school district, and I've had 3 students that have gone through the system. And now my daughter, she's a teacher, her first year. So I think sometimes we kind of lose sight. I mean, I would like to see a superintendent. The last 2 that we've had haven't really stepped off into the things that I'd like to see. First of all, we need to make sure that no kid is left behind. I mean, I feel like we kind of lose sight. We don't ever have enough money for things. So the budget is a very big concern, and I felt like the budget has never been handled correctly. We've been through a bond and then another one, and so someone has to be very knowledgeable how to get this thing running as a business, but yet we need to make sure we have enough things for our children. There's kids that are struggling. I have volunteered with the school district, and kids are just being left behind. I mean, we always say leave no kid behind, but they're falling through the cracks. So I think, we need to have more learning things, need to have money to buy these things to help these kids. I mean, we're spending money, but yet we're not getting anywhere with it. So we need to have someone that's very knowledgeable with, I think it's very important that someone you will know how to run the business. So I feel like the money situation is a big part. Yes, they need to be involved. They need to be on the campus. They need to know what's happening, what direction we're going. If someone is, you can just walk down the school, and if kids are not being on task, well, hey, maybe that teacher needs help to get So I feel like we just all need to work in unity, teamwork, not just say, oh, he's the superintendent. Oh, what are we going to do? Everybody just gets overly excited about, no, we're in this together. No one's above each other. Let's work together. The goal is that the children will be educated. They will have the things that they need. I know that the big thing is you make the money by the student being in the class. Well, if we're making money with the students being in the class, then we need to figure out how to get these perfect attendance, and it can't be just always the principal, so I feel like let's try to find somebody, hey, be a team player, let's work together. So especially the budget is the biggest thing, I think, So I don't know, there's just so many different things. So I'm here today because I'm a big supporter of education. I've always cracked the whip with my kids. Hey, let's succeed and, let's see. And if I don't know the answer, let's find out the answer. But we're going to have superintendent that's going to be behind the principals and not make it so everything is so stressful on them that they cannot relate to their teachers, and therefore, and today my cousin East had a orientation. She says, I wasn't even allowed to go. I'm like, we're shooting ourselves in the foot when we cannot allow parents on the campus, because the more parent involvement you have, then the stronger the kid's going to be, because I really believe you have parent involvement, what that kid is going to achieve.
Right.
When my kid was in kindergarten, I'm like, we're holding him back. I mean, he's not learning anything. And the teacher's like, really? I'm like, yes, really, because I work with him every single day. So you know what? I just feel like we have to have top leadership that's going to dwindle down and have unity. So thank you.
I mean, thank you to your daughter again. It's a noble, yeah. In fact, one of the things that I was really amazed about, and this is the outsider looking in. Today I met with administrative staff and I asked how many of you guys came up through the system, and more than half of them, more than half of the central office and principals all were born and raised here. I thought that was amazing, so they want to give back to the community. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I don't think it needs to be. So basically, have somebody that can have good people around them to be that leader, that knows good talent, surrounds himself with talent, and continually develops that talent. That's important for that to continue.
I agree with you 100%. Whether
So have some experience to say, okay, these are the people that I hired, or the superintendent say that these are the people that they've hired, and this is how they've achieved or gone on and done other things.
No, you have to have a well-equipped, trained staff, from your teachers to your principals to your central office. Again, and that's continuous.
And that shows leadership.
Yes, sir. Good point. So these are the meetings. Of course, we're at Aloe today. Tomorrow we'll be at Hopkins Elementary and Vickers. If you want to join,
Maybe something that you weren't able to express today, or QR code, leave your comments there too, for sure.
And then on the 19th, we'll be at Mission Valley. So those are the set community events that we have so far. So we invite you to all of them. If you think of something else that, as you leave a meeting, we always say, man, I wish I would have asked that question, right? So you can always attend the next meeting, okay? And the QR code, again, is the last one. And as Mr. Mercer mentioned at the onset, hey, get your family, friends. We need everybody, right, to come together and fill out this survey, because your voice counts, okay? The board is getting the comments. I send it to them weekly, all the comments that are written. So they're reading them to what you're saying, right? And they are anonymous, okay? So that's important. They're anonymous comments, but they read them. And again, we're developing patterns, we're developing themes that are emerging within the comments, okay? So again, if you want your voice heard, be sure that you fill it out and encourage your friends as well. Again, it's been an honor, it's been a pleasure serving with you this evening. And again, I look forward to, yes, sir.
What's the range this person's going to be paid
All of that is negotiable, sir. It'll be depending on how, do they have a proven track record, how much experience? So, again, there's a lot of factors that go into it, right? But again, it'll be competitive, I'm sure, to make sure that, because that's key, right? We want to be sure that we keep somebody, right? And that's always a part of it.
What I don't understand is, Mike, correct me, Mike, if
Yeah.
I'm wrong on this, but when we had people here before, the fully burdened rate, I believe, was approaching $400,000 a year. No?
No, it was a little over 300.
Okay, a little over 300. Our congressman makes $174,000 a year. Our federal senator makes the same, and our governor makes $159,000 a year. Victoria's not a very expensive place. I don't know. Do we have to pay that person that much money? Again, I don't know.
Again, we do market analysis, based on schools about this size, and Victoria. I tell you what, they're not at the top.
And they're not at the top, they're not at the bottom statewide, but they're competitive.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the market for superintendents, it just depends. They negotiate with the board, and the board will, they're very aware of the dollars and cents, so they'll do the best they can. But superintendents, they study the markets too. The information is public information, so they're able to get that information, and you make the best decision you can. But the board is very aware of the financial aspect of that, and that's something that Saul and I will help the board as we negotiate with whoever is the finalist. Yeah, but very good question.
Well, one thing, can we one thing that I would, maybe we could, okay, it's time for a raise. If you brought our district up, we're doing good, then we're going to give you a raise. Let's prove, you're going to have to prove yourself to the community in Victoria. We could give raises. Don't start out so high. Because, hey, everybody will apply for if you have that. But I feel like let them have a goal also. Hey, if you can get us, we'll give you another $50,000. But first of all, we want to see what you can do for us, and then we can
make them earn it. That's what you're saying.
There you go. Make them earn it. I mean, I know they're going to have their doctorates, so they've already earned it. But now we've already had 2 that's had their doctorates and hasn't led us anywhere. So I feel like let's have a goal for them. Okay, we in school, you accomplish this, we're going to give you this. So I feel like let's start, at a decent amount, but then make them reach for that $300,000. You see what I'm saying? And I feel like that will, if we're at the 14th at the bottom, hey, if we can work our way up to be a good, hey, we'll want to get people in Victoria because we have the best school district ever. So I feel like let's let them prove themselves to us. Hey, if you can follow within the budget, well then, hey, we're going to give you a raise. So I feel like, achievements, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and not only prove it while they're here, okay, we're going to make sure they proved it where they were at, right, before they even get here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, if the board can if they choose, have incentives, and that's legal, and that's something that we see in some superintendent contracts. So it's just something that the board can consider for sure.
Okay.
If you're already at the top, why work any harder?
Right.
Incentives are good.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mercer.
I just want to make sure, did everybody get a chance to get their comments in tonight? Please, if you did not, go to the survey. A lot of really good comments. Mr. Posey, your question about pay, I think, is something that's been a hotbed issue. I'm glad that you brought that up because that is important. And again, like the guy said, I mean, we're going to be competitive. We know that. We don't have any choice. We're going to have to be competitive. But those are important aspects to remember. So thank you for bringing it up. And again, there's nothing too, I keep telling everybody, there's nothing too sensational. There's nothing too benign. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there another?
One more comment. Yeah.
I just wondered if there was time, if we could hear a little bit from board members, what they really appreciated about our last superintendent and what they want to keep going that was started with our last superintendent.
Wow. That is a really good question. No, that is. And I think that if you got all 7 of us up here, you would probably get a little different answer from each one of us. But I will share, and I don't know if anyone else wants to share, but I will share one of the things that I found profoundly impactful. And that was my experience with Dr. Shepard was, and one of the things, well, let me put it this way. The reason it's impactful for me is because it's the first thing people started telling me when they learned that he was leaving to take another job. And so the campus administrators, our principals, were the first people that I went and talked to. How do you feel about this? And everyone that I spoke to said the greatest thing that Dr. Shepard imparted on the district was he gave them runway. In other words, it wasn't, it's going to sound, he gave them the freedom to fail, to figure it out. He didn't micromanage every little thing that they had done. In other words, they had set goals, and he had worked with them to attain those goals. But anytime something didn't work, it was, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out how to fix this thing. That was one of the most impactful things for me. Because, again, I'm a parent. I don't work in the school other than serve on the board. So I always sort of kind of try to go to the source of what was the greatest thing. What are you going to miss most? And that was for me. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to share. Oh yeah, please.
Okay, sure. So I've been through VISD. I worked for VISD, then I substituted, and then my kids went through there. I've got 2 of them graduated. 3 actually graduated. One's an attorney in California. One's got a master's degree in biomedical science, and then the last one is an electrician with the city of Victoria. So VISD did an amazing job with my kids. So thank you, teachers, very much. I greatly appreciate that. The thing that I really liked about Dr. Shepard was that whether you know it or not, he gave back to the community, whether it was his own money through sales of his books or his own money from his salary that he gave to Education Foundation for grants for teachers that gave their ideas. And he also had an opportunity where he did grow your own. And so he took our people that were here and he wanted them to stay here. He wanted them to still be part of VISD, but to grow. And so we had a lot of teachers and assistant principals that have gone up, have become higher leaders. We also have a bridge program where our paraprofessionals can now go to school and become teachers. They're already there. They love our kids. So that was some of the things that I really loved about Dr. Shepard was that he, in one shape, way, or form or another, was giving back to VISD, whether it was, again, growing your own programs or giving of himself monetarily.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it averaged somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a year that he gave back to the Education
Correct.
Foundation from a speaking engagement. In fact, every speaking engagement, and some of you may not know this, but every speaking engagement he did, he donated the entire speaking fee back to the Education Foundation while he was superintendent here.
So I'll talk because I was not with Quentin for not even a year. I was appointed and then just recently elected, and what I'm saying is not a surprise to him, so I can say that. I told him when I got on the board, because I did teach 7 years, Patty Welder, woohoo, go Panthers, and I work
Still dressed like it. I know.
and West, because that's where my baby is, but I still teach. I teach English at Victoria College, so I love education. I'm an educator, and I told him, after I got to know him a bit, I was like, I didn't really like you before I got to know you on the board. So just know that as a point of background. So what I do appreciate about him is the innovation that he brought, especially growing people. I know y'all all had jobs and you see other people coming in and getting ahead and you're like, I've been here. Or when you've ever had to maybe teach your boss, it's not a good feeling. So you know of what I speak. I appreciate that he did reach back and make these pathways for not just students, but for our employees to succeed. And I also appreciated his management style. everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to manage differently. But again, he wasn't a micromanager, which I also realizes might be one of the reasons that he wasn't as visible as some people want to see. So we need to consider that, and I understand that as a board member. But he wasn't a micromanager. Again, as an employee, that's a style I can appreciate. Talk to me, correct me if I'm doing something wrong, but if you hire me and you trust me and I'm credentialed, let me go do my job. And I saw that in him. So I think from what I've heard from people, those are some of the things that they've appreciated with him. And I do appreciate the increased graduation rates and our industry-based certificates. Those, though we have, mountains and valleys in terms of success in VISD, but those are some areas where there was notable, tangible improvement. And of course, I hope whoever we bring in can continue to do that and then lift up some of those low spots.
I'll say real quick, one of the things I really appreciate about Dr. Shepard is he did not suffer from the not invented here syndrome. I don't have a background in education, even close to education. So I do things a whole lot different where I come from. And I would sit down with him and say, have you ever thought about doing it this way? And he would say, well, that's a pretty good idea. And we would talk through how you would apply some of the ideas into the education. And he would teach me the other way. So we would go back and forth. And I just really appreciated his openness around having those conversations and listening and teaching me as well. So.
So I'm so excited y'all are here. Y'all, they're just like a breath of fresh air whenever they send us an email or show up at things. What I liked about Dr. Shepard, he was very smart. Everyone knew that. He was very smart. And the conversations that we would have, I feel like I went to another level when I would have conversations with him. And he taught me a lot. And he a lot of people don't like to say that a school district is a business, but he did think of it as a business in a lot of ways. And we got our fund balance, which is basically just our reserves, where they needed to be. And I was very grateful for that because situations happen and you've got to have some reserves. So that was something I appreciated about him. What?
You had like a week. Real quick, I'm the newest board member. I didn't interact with Dr. Shepard much as a board member, but as a parent, knowing the obstacles that he faced when he came on board. So right after Harvey, COVID, and seeing those obstacles and understanding when I did become a board member that he knew what he knew and he didn't know what he didn't know. And he was able to put in place personnel to address some of those obstacles. So if you look back over the last few years, we have been able to put in personnel that has addressed the obstacles that we've basically pretty much gotten the solutions for. So I know budgets have been mentioned and things like that, maintenance on buildings and those type of obstacles that we've seen. So he was able to address those. So that's what I appreciated. And then he was very personable when I met him the few times before joining the board. And then unfortunately, I think it was the meeting prior to me swearing in, that he resigned. So anyway,
Nothing personal.
My appreciation, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear from you guys and to put in a new superintendent because I have a 6th grader and a 4th grader that are starting the school year next week. So I think we're going to have a long journey through VISD. There you go.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. I think that covers all of us that are here.
I had something to say, Mike.
For the most part, I do not have that problem with you guys. I generally do not have a problem of someone not having something to say at the table. It's wonderful. It's great. I get to work with some of the most incredible people, some of the most inventive people. I will say that about my fellow board members. There's not a single one of them I know what their interests are, and it aligns with what this community does. And that's what I want to close with, is to let you know that there's some great comments tonight, and we take those things to heart. We don't take them personally, even if you mean them personally. We don't take them personally because we take them constructively, because we know that there's not a single person in this room tonight, and there's not a person in this community that doesn't want what's best for our students and ultimately what's best for our community. You prove that by being here tonight. You continue to prove that by sharing what you've learned tonight and this QR code and the survey with as many people in the community as we can get. Sometimes we have a problem with voter turnout. You know, especially in a non-presidential year, our voter turnout is low. I would love to see that the responses to this survey just blow away what our voter turnout is, because everyone can participate in this thing, and everyone's voice is incredibly vital. Finally, Ms. Hurley, thank you for hosting us tonight. I know that when we do these public meetings, it is somewhat of an imposition on you and your staff. I completely recognize that, and I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We really appreciate you doing that, holding it up. The place looks phenomenal. Looks like it's going to be great start to the year. But we really appreciate our staff and the fact that you do find ways to accommodate, not just with us, but also with our students and our parents. And the last thing I'll say is I learned something new. There's actually offices you can run for that you get paid for. That's something to definitely keep in mind. Yeah, absolutely. But again, thank you so much for being here. I don't want this to be the limit and the end of your input or interaction with us as a board or us as a district. All our emails are available. Every administrator's emails are available, or pick up the phone, call, whatever. My general policy is I try to get back with you in 24 or 48 hours, if at all possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out, because you are the reason that we do this. Absolutely. That being said, we are adjourned.